All right, hello and welcome to Answering Atheism episode 25. We made it. Very happy about that. Very, very happy. At long last. Took way too long. Ideally, we could be cranking a number of these out every Sunday at least. That would be really nice, and I would love to do that. But anyhow, this is going to be a very, very interesting and different episode to all the others. You'll probably know based upon the title already, but anyhow, I usually do a couple typical things before we get into what we do. And I already jumped into this video and forgot the tie. Oh well. I don't have the right fancy shirt on either, but that's okay. So, just an introduction thing I like to give out before we get into things. Since I can't show the tie, we skip that. So what we do on this show of sorts, the only show I know of its kind, but there's probably others on YouTube, let's be honest. It's the only one I'm aware of like this, but you never know. So what we do is I take the Christian side of things, and what I do is I obtain a atheist, secular, evolution type comment from off the web, whatever I think looks interesting or that I could deal with or I want to try and deal with, or whatever the case. I bring it onto the show here after I take a limited amount of time to try and work on it, get some notes, be able to give a dialogue on it, and if at all possible, I will try and dismantle the comment and deliver a counterpunch of sorts. That is usually the norm. This time is going to probably be a little different because it's not in the slightest militant this time. So, without further ado, this is going to be very interesting. Here's the comment. It's kind of three parts to it, so here it is. I want to believe in God, specifically the Christian God. Good. Why do you Christians believe in it? Question mark. How do you respond to the problem of evil or other points raised by atheists or agnostics? Well, since we don't have those other points, we can't really answer those, but still, nonetheless, we can deliver something on the evil bit in a moment. But and I forgot to the other thing I forgot to do already was I like to do a sort of introductory verse type thing, just so that we get off on the right footing and that I don't get a iffy attitude or anything like that. That's not what this is supposed to be. Something might get me a little irritated here or there, but we'll see. But nonetheless, let's start dealing with this. I want to believe in God, specifically the Christian God. Very, very good, I think. Very, very good. Why do you Christians believe in it? Well. You know, I think that's a very interesting question. I think that's one of those depthy questions where, like me, I don't necessarily have anything I would just by default say. I don't have anything prepared to say outside of noting something down, but there's a whole host of different things and reasons and all that. But the one thing I do want to cite, in all likelihood, would be Philippians 1:29 to answer the question, why do you Christians believe in it, aka God? So Philippians 1:29, 1 verse 29, chapter 1:29. For unto you it is given in the behalf of Christ, not only to believe on him, but also to suffer for his sake. That would indicate that Christians are given belief in God. Given belief. So that would be my best answer, because that's a verse right out of Scripture. But outside of that, I think there's a whole host of things. I know I'm kind of blanket carpet saying that, but I also think there's a a world of different routes people take to get there. And another element to it would be people of all different ages. Generally, I strongly believe that it's easier to convert younger folks than older folks. The longer you have a plant in one spot, the more roots it's going to get. So people get set in their ways. This and that. There's a whole bunch of things, both ways. Why to believe and why, or reasons why one wouldn't want to believe and stuff like that. Why do you Christians believe in it? Well, I'm going to try and up the ante a little bit here and do something I wouldn't normally do, but I need to know this stuff better as well. Different arguments out there. So I'll just present some of them here. So the moral argument, and I might not have them, jotted down in notes perfect to communicate them or anything like that. I'm just kind of trying to wing it best I can here. I don't know them 100% to just dish out here or there. I don't have them all memorized or anything like that, or know how to perfectly communicate the whole argument. But the moral argument for things being not just subjectively or relatively wrong, relatively like based on majority versus subjective, just the individual. With subjective, you can have one person who says whatever's wrong, whatever the case, wrong. Let's say stealing. One thief, let's say the thief says it's wrong to steal. The store owner says it's wrong to steal. So not wrong to steal, wrong to steal. The thief has a reason why he would want to believe that. But the thing with subjective morals, which one's right, you have to incorporate a standard beyond oneself. But ultimately, what the Bible says is that I don't have the verse here, but nonetheless, luckily I remember that it says essentially like the law, like right and wrong are written on our hearts, the God's moral law, that type of a thing. So we got our conscience as well. But anyhow, back to it. So there's subjective, then there's relative, which I think is the sort of like groupings. So not individuals, but groups. Whoever has the biggest group, that's what's right, and it can change. So one day it could be wrong, and one day it could be right. 90% could vote to be able to kill off up to 7-year-olds, and that would be right, okay, relatively morally okay. But to get to the objective morals, you got to have an objective moral lawgiver with the authority to do such. What better than God, creator? He has the right to set the whatever moral law, and he don't just dish it out to us for no reason or anything like that. It's definitely for reasons. It's to adhere to as best you can, so that you don't get detriments from disobeying them. If you go left or right of those things, of what to do or what not to do, then things can get messy, type of a deal. So it's actually a caring and loving type thing to do. But anyhow, yeah. So that's kind of like the moral argument. Need moral, objective lawgiver to get to objective morals. Otherwise, you have individuals, subjective. One can say something's right, one can say something's wrong, but what are they using? What's their standard of good? Because you need that objective standard of good, or else you couldn't have with whatever, naturalism, materialism, good, bad, evil, all that kind of stuff, just utterly meaningless. So it's quite an interesting thing. And with the relativism, with the majority, same type of thing. If you have two, let's say two groups, both with 100 people who think this is right or that's right, well, who's right? Same with the subjective. If you have 1 and 1, who's right? How do you determine? How do you tell right from wrong? Apart from God, it would just be individual determines that. You become essentially whatever you want to choose, type of a deal. You kind of become the standard versus God. So anyhow, that's that. Objective morals, things actually being the case that things are wrong, apart from us, based upon God's nature, who God is. Some people throughout the Great Question is something objectively morally wrong, thus God declares it to be wrong, or vice versa, or whatever the case. And ultimately, it's rooted in who God is. That is why God is not a thief. You name it. Not a thief, not a murderer, you name it. But anyhow, I think we should get on to the next bits here, or this is going to take forever. All right, so next we got cosmological. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause, aka God. Immaterial, timeless, spaceless. What else is there? Personal, because to create is a personal act. Nature coming into being. Nature can't beget nature. And that puts a time limit on things as well with Big Bang type stuff. So, very interesting. You couldn't have it be infinite and all that, because you wouldn't have the energy at all. Everything would be wound down if everything was infinitely old and the universe was eternal. Plus, it would take an infinity to reach the present, so it can't be infinite. It can't be eternal. And outside of that, well, we'll get to it again in here, but later in a moment. But we got to keep going. The time is going to get to us. Ontological argument. This one is really trippy to try and understand, but I'll have to see if someone has a better wording of it. But it ultimately hinges on like a best being, a number one being, and the being must actually be, or else one could have a better being that could be. It's kind of bonkers confusing, but the best being can't just be of one's mind, because a greater than God cannot be thought of, given that mind and real are superior to just mind. I can't even communicate it. It's a pretty bonkers one to try and chew. So anyhow, the design argument. Information, functional information. It would be a sheer miracle of chance or of an intelligence. Some people just don't want it to be an intelligence. But it's just the deck is stacked. The deck is stacked. You need an intelligence to have the information. Genetics, DNA, our cells copying. The information wouldn't be diddly squat without an intelligence. ATCG or whatever. It's a functional code. Many however many numbers or whatever you want to call them long, units or whatever. Letters. So yeah, if it's just chance by chance by chance by blind chance by blind chance, well, some say that would be essentially a miracle, and thus the a good evidence for God, because you don't get stuff by blind chance. You don't get functional information by blind chance. Several layers deep, nonetheless. With a computer, you need the information, not only the software, but the hardware. You have to have them both compatible. Everything has to work. It takes a lot of intelligence. So, and then we got the cause argument. Nature coming into existence. And the universe has to come from a causeless being, aka God. Otherwise, you would have an infinite regress of sorts. This begat this, begat this, begat this, and so forth. And as we got to before, it can't be infinite. Nature. So, all roads lead to God. Anyhow, what he said here, how do you respond to the problem of evil? Well, the problem of evil is the proof of God, the objective standard of good to know that which is evil. You can throw out the evil term, but there is no evil outside that circle. There is no evil. And then we got, since he didn't give us the other bits, we'll just run through atheism, lack of belief, thus, which I find hogwash. They do have beliefs, but lack of belief in God. But their foundation is affirming the non-existence of God. So I think it's kind of a cop-out to claim just lack of belief. That might work in a descriptive sense, but not in a knowledge claim sense. They don't go day to day lacking belief. They live out their belief that God does not exist. So, an agnostic, boy oh boy, what did they think? I think they're kind of on the fence. They don't really know one way or another, so thus God could exist. But one more tidbit here, which is kind of Pascal's wager. The Christian, if the Christian is wrong, they lose what? A very temporary blink of an eye life here. If the atheist is wrong, they have infinite life with God to lose. And if they're yet alive, they still have the potential to gain the infinite life with God rather than lose. If they're already gone, they lost it. But there's still time for some to place their trust in God, in what He did for us. Not anything we can do to save ourselves. Free gift, by the way, which we didn't get to at the end of the last video, which is what I had hoped to intend to dish out every episode. But anyhow, I'd like to get into something a little bit interesting, which is a bit of personal testimony, which I don't think I've heard more than a handful of them myself, but nonetheless, for any who might be interested in it, I would like to dish it out. Not all the details, but enough of them. So, and I realize a couple bits of this is scoffable. I don't care. I do not care. I don't care. So, a long time ago, when I was, let's say, a bit more of a little bugger, more of a kid. Let's just say several years old. I was walking from point A to point B with someone. I believe what happened was I think I said a lie to this individual as a little bugger. And we're just saying several years old. I don't know the exact, but and this is a very, very important memory. Never dished it out before. But I think I said a lie. And I really think that this may have been my first sin. This was best I can recall, prior to being Christian. But looking back on it now, it's like, oh, that's what that was, type of a deal. So I think it was my first sin. I lied to someone going from point A to point B with them walking. Now, what proceeded from that to make it so memorable, even, all these years later, whether it was or not, I don't know. If it was first sin or just first sin of that type, lying, I don't know. But nonetheless, what happened very, very soon after that, not like 3, 5, or 7 steps after that, just indescribable, the sense of like a tsunami of evil that crashed through me. Just the sheer presence of evil. And I think what happened was, my train tracks were switched from innocent to guilty that day. And, the train things that they switched tracks, it got moved to the one route. Years later, And this is how bad can be used for good. Something as false as the Y2K scare, that is what got me saved years later. Something false, something not good, it was used for good. It got me over the fence into safe territory. So let's just say 10 years old now. So like 3 years later, let's say. And that was when someone who cared about me enough to, because they knew about the Y2K thing, as far as I can guess, they cared enough to tell me about the greatest deal there is. What God did for us in our place, died, rose again, third day, second person of the Trinity, Jesus, all that. And if we trust him, then we get to be with him forever. Free gift. I don't know about other people, but I like a good deal, and that is the best deal. I accepted that deal. I didn't need, now here's the other bit that's probably scoffable, but I didn't need these mountains of evidence. I went from me being my top authority to God being my top authority. I accepted the free gift. God, you say you exist. That's enough for me. The Bible also says that he has given us plenty of evidence. He's already given us the evidence. We just don't really see it or think about it day to day. And like with these two things here, both that memory of that sin and the day I got saved, both of those day to day kind of got lost. I didn't really think much about them. After getting saved, still as a kid, I just kind of wanted, okay, I accept the free deal, and kind of just want to go off and do my own thing again, get back to what I was playing with, whatever. And it took another amount of years, let's say somewhere in between being, let's say 16 to 21, around there, where it was like, okay, I want to look into things. And sure enough, I did. I looked into all sorts of different information, books and this and that. I wanted to see what all the different information was, and sure enough, the debate between worldviews really fascinated me. So I really loved that, and I still like a lot listening to all that sort. So given all that, my tracks got switched to the other rails. Free gift. So essentially, on Judgment Day, God's going to be there in the judge seat, God the Father. Jesus is going to be off into the what do they call it? I forget what they call it now. But anyway, he's off to the side. The jury stand. He's on the jury stand. And God goes through everything with me, and I'm just a wreck. Because I know I'm guilty. And he's just going through everything. And I'm like thinking, Jesus, get over here, do something. And God's like, good job on the videos, but you are guilty. And right before he sentences you, Jesus jumps over the wall divider thing at the jury like a boss. Says, hold up. He stands right in between me and God. God sees Jesus' righteousness, not whatever little I have. So he sees himself. Then God's like, all right, you're free to go. Then Jesus says, come on now. Let's go this way. I've prepared a place for you. Some people do not want God for whatever reason. Some will choose with God, some will choose without God. A lot of them are probably going to be tough cases for whatever reason. So on some basis, it is part of our work to win people over, but on other basis, I see it more as, because you can't just debate someone forever. So I see it on some basis as just presenting the deal, and let them decide. But anyhow, given all that stuff, my personal testimony, I'm even older now than all that. And as I was cared for, I care to present that deal to others just as I was cared about. I don't benefit at all doing these. These videos don't help get me saved at all. They are evidence that I'm saved. So, but that's the deal. I don't gain nothing. I'm helping others gain. That's a big gain. So, anyhow, there's worlds of topics and research and all sorts of stuff you can get into if you're curious about the topics. You can look into information, biogenesis, existence and cause, nature, entropy, God being uncaused, aliens being demons, the secular extra-biblical account of Genesis found within ancient Chinese pictographs, character language type thing. I'm not going to go into it, but anyhow, you can look into dragons being dinosaurs, lots of different things. Apparently I had prepped a thing to talk about false converts here, but I think we'll skip out because we're already over time. I try to hit 30 minutes, but we manage every time. One of these times we'll get a 30-second one or something like that. But anyhow, yeah, we talked about false converts last episode, so we're good. I had the verse here, not on the other one. Crazy. All right, so that's it. You know about the free gift. You know about the greatest deal. Either choose or accept. Some people don't want that, so they'll go where they want. It's a tale of two routes. For whatever reason, some people will not accept. Some people don't like who God is, something that irritates them in the Old Testament, or this or that, or some misunderstanding, or whatever the case. So yeah, there's two camps: those that want to be with God, and those that don't. God will give them their route. So, anyhow, thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for episode 26. I'm just happy we achieved 25. So now we're going to be on the route to 50. Yay. All right. I'll see you up ahead. As always, take care cool.